take a closer look at the Innovator Nano and see exactly what we're working with here. So let's pull off the knob here, and we'll get a little Phillips screwdriver and we'll loosen these screws here, and we'll see exactly what we got going on. So this comes out, 2 screws holding the plate in, and we got 2 more screws holding in the Innovator Nano. So let's see if we can pull this little guy out of here without having to open this whole thing up, which I'm sure we can. Alright, so that's pretty much it. It's just like any other Innovator Mini. You're going to pull that out. Here is your Innovator Nano. So once you take this off, you can see it's pretty much an Innovator Mini, and I'm sure there's something here with the circuitry that makes it a little bit more specific to the STX, but either way it's got the same build. Actually, we just got to take this apart to get that tension spring out of there. Alright guys, so we're going to open up this Innovator Nano. It seems to me that they put like some spacers in here, like little stoppers to shorten the distance between the left and the right here. What we need to do is we need to take these little tabs here, we have to bend them up. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then this one here actually has a little bit of solder on it, and we'll have to remove that either with some desoldering wick, or we can use a solder vacuum. Firstly, we need to bend up these little tabs here. You're gonna need like a very, very fine or small flathead. Okay, so I'm just gonna get underneath this like that. Okay, and then I'm gonna try and wiggle underneath there, and I'm gonna try and be as careful as possible not to knock any of these little components off the board. So we're just gonna try and get underneath there just enough to where I can bend that little guy up, so just like that. So you can see it's kind of lifted there. That's what I want to do. I'm going to do that with this second one here. So you can kind of see that how I bend them up, and then I'll get some needle nose pliers and bend it up the rest of the way. Okay, so now we're going to switch this around and start working on the other side. What I do is get some needle nose pliers, and we'll try to bend these up a little bit more. Okay. So now you can see how all 3 of those on that side are lifted straight up, and then these 2 are lifted straight up, and then we just need to focus on this guy here, which has the solder on there, so we need to get that off of there. The other thing we need to focus on is the configuration of the fader when we're opening it up. Make sure that we don't mix it up. It's fairly easy not to. You're just going to make sure that the board goes in the right way. Again, it is a little easier because only one side's going to have some solder on it and on the board here, and I believe that is for grounding. But when we get the board out of there, that's when we really got to pay attention. Okay, and then you can see on one side it does say A+, the other side has nothing on it, because there's this little tiny spring that is inside here, and if that spring goes flying out, it's going to be hard to find again. Alright, so let's see if we can get this solder off of here. Let's try the solder vacuum first, and we'll see how much of that solder we can pull off the board. Okay, so here's my solder vacuum. Basically, I'm just going to push this in, and then when I hit this button like that, and it'll pull the solder off the board. So be very, very careful when you're doing this. You do not want to hit any of these components on this board. You don't want to melt anything either. There we go. And then we can let it touch here. See how it gets liquid right away. And then from there, it just pulls it right off, just like that. Okay. Okay. So that got a good amount of that solder off of there. Now I think what I can do is use the desoldering wick, and that might help me get the rest of this off of here. So I'll just let it sit on the top, and then it should pull. Yeah, look at that. Okay, so that actually got the solder off of that pretty nicely. So I have that bent up. Let me get these needle nose pliers and bend that up a little bit more, just like that. Now this is where we got to be very, very careful, because there is a spring that you need to be very mindful of when we're pulling this board up. So we're just going to try to... Oh, that's how they did it. Wow. Okay, so that pulls up. Okay. Remember I said you got to be careful because that spring can go... Well, it goes right there in that little hole, and it is now somewhere. What they did is they just took a bunch of little rubber and they just stacked them 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 on each side, and that's how they shortened the throw. It's effective and I guess very inexpensive for them to do it that way, but I was expecting something else. Oh, I found that spring. So let me show you here. That is the spring that I'm talking about. That's the spring you got to be very, very careful of when you're pulling that board up. That spring goes right here, like that. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. You got to be very careful of that. All right, so let's put that somewhere where we're not going to lose it. Okay, now when you take this apart, you can see where this says A+. Remember this configuration. All we need to do is just kind of push this up and see how it just lifts out of there. Just like that. Okay, so from there you can see that these have these little indentions here on the top and here on top. Okay, make sure that when you put these back in, you're going to put them in with those facing up towards you. Okay, so let's pull this apart real quick. So that one will go there. Pull off all of those. Remember, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 on each side. Again, that's pretty funny. That's how they did that. That's kind of how I used to shorten the throw on all of my older faders, and that's how I would kill my space or my dead space in my faders. So that's funny that they use that method as well. Now we're going to take these bars out here, take this one out here, then we're going to flip this guy over. Now underneath this little piece of white plastic, you're going to see this. So that's gonna lift out. Okay, just like that. And then you're going to take out this. And that's your little tension spring. So I'm not a fan of having that in there. It just slows the fader down, you know, and for something that you're going to be scratching on, you don't really need any resistance in there. You want it to be as smooth as possible. So let's just clear this out. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to wipe these bars down. So wipe the bar down with some rubbing alcohol. Alright, so I got a Q-tip here, and I'm just going to put a little bit of rubbing alcohol on that. Put this little guy back together. So we're going to run one bar here like this. Okay. And then we're going to put our little rubber bumpers back on here. 2, 3, 4, and then we'll do the same on the other side, just like that. We'll get the other bar, push it through like that. Okay, this will go back in like so. This one will go like this. Okay. Push, push. There you go. So that's basically how that's gonna go back together. Now you can see like how much smoother that is. Okay. Now we can leave it like this and that's gonna be very smooth, or we could put even a little bit, like a small tiny bit of lubrication on there, which I'll probably do. Let's put this back in. Remember, we're going to push this down like that, and boom, there's that little A plus there, goes there. You have the 1, 2 dots there, and then see how there's the 4 on this one. That one goes that way. Okay, just like that. There we go. Deoxit, lube. So I mean, I'm gonna put a very minimal amount on here, maybe 1 drop on each bar, very small drop, like that and like that. Opening these faders up, it's a little bit of a process, and you know, we can only open them up so many times before these little tabs get weak and break. So there we go. Take that little spring and put it back in this hole. Okay, just like that. All right. Let's put this back together. And again, we know that the solder is right here. So we got to put that board back this way. Okay. Make sure that spring is there still. Yep. And boom. Push that down. Okay. See that? That's what we want. Okay. So when we're bending these back down, I found the easiest way to do that is to take your needle nose plier, and you see this little flat edge right here, just like that. You're going to use that flat edge and put it right up against this little tab here, and then just bend it back in place. Try to push this board down as best you can. Now watch, just like that. See, and it bends it right back in place. So I'll show you again on this side. Just like that. Okay. And then for the middle, I found this was the easiest and best way to do this. so you're not scratching anything up, damaging anything. Okay, so that's basically it. Everything's back where it needs to be. So let's get some solder back on this. Just take a little bit, put it here, and watch how easy this is. Just a little tab, and the solder should start to melt. Just like that. That is pretty much it, guys. So any inno fader that you have, mini inno fader, that is how you're going to open it up and get that little tension spring out of there if you want your fader to have no tension in it at all. Let's install it back in. So we're just gonna connect this fader back like this. And then we'll take the two little screws. We just gotta push this through like that. And then just depending on how you want to set your fader. If you want it just left and right, if you want it kind of at an angle, you'll be able to do that as well. But it just really just depends on how you want to do this. There we go. Alright, so let's put the plate back on here. The fader cap back on. There we go. So there you go, guys. That's pretty much how you're going to maintenance the Innofader Nano, which is basically an Innofader Mini with some little rubber O-rings, kind of like this, and they're just stacked in there. So anyway, hopefully that video helps you guys out. And yeah, if you want this fader to be butter smooth, that's the way you're gonna get it to, you know, feel that way. So thanks for watching. Peace for now.